everyone, welcome back to Studio 33 Art by Kay. I've just been doing a few Christmas placemats here on some MDF board, and you've seen me do a few of these recently. I did a double dip and I wasn't that pleased with it. This one actually doesn't look too bad. Could probably get away with this one, but I thought, well, no, I'm just going to try something else that I've thought of. I'd like to try and just on top of this create a bloom whereby I'm going to do the shape, and then I'm going to put down a wet paper towel and lift it into the middle, and just to see what I'm going to get. So with this as the base, but that is actually not too bad. Problem I'm having with the MDF board is I think it's a little bit warped, and so when you put two together they don't completely meet, so that's the problem I'm having. So I won't be able to do any of those, but you can do a normal dip where you put the paint onto a piece of alfoil or Glad wrap or something like that, and then you press the painting into it and lift it. That's an actual dip. It might work better than a double dip, but anyway, I'll do that another day. So I'm going to now just put down these paints in a circle, and then I'll do the lift. So we'll see how it goes. So this is the Montmartre Satin Scarlet. So I'm just going to do a big round circle, hopefully more or less in the middle, probably more less than more. Ended about right. It's not quite round, but that's okay. Then I'll put in a bit of silver, which is just the Global Silver Metallic. And the next colour I'm going to lay down is the Vermilion, which is a real orangey sort of red. And then into that I'm going to be putting the Villaggio Pearl, or Villaggio Pearl, mixed with Amsterdam Titanium White and Floetrol. And that should give me some beautiful lacing, and also the white is a part of Christmassy colours as well. So actually I'll put a bit of gold first. I'm not going to go mad on the gold, I'm just going to do some, because it can tend to take over a little bit. And so I'm just going to put the Villaggio just around, just over the top of all the others. Right, so that's a pretty not round shaped flower, but that will be fine. So I'm just going to hit it with the heat tool. And that just bursts the bubbles. And now I'm going to take my paper towel and I'm going to wet it down. This is the ribbed paper towel. I'll just show you. In Australia, this is made by, it's called Viva, and it's got those ribs, and that helps to give a sort of a ribbed pattern as well, which I quite like. I'm just wetting the paper towel down so it will lie nice and flat onto the paint. I'll just turn this around. Okay, and I'm going to do it half and half if I can. So just lay that half on there, about halfway. Actually, if I had to put this around the other way, I could have, no, it doesn't matter. Okay, so in the middle there, more or less, drop it down. Take this over. So because that was damped down, it's laid down very nicely for me. No air bubbles really at all. So just very gently patting it down. And now I'm just going to take this corner. That's about my middle, so I'm going to try and get to about there. Oops. And then, because this isn't square, I'll just come up from the side about where I think. Try not to drip that in too much. And up from this side. Up there. And then pull it into the middle as much as possible and up. Well, so far that looks like a bit of a mess, but I'll hit that with the heat tool and see how those layers will then be more defined. Or not, as the case may be. Pretty little centre there. Okay, so that hasn't worked very well particularly. Having one of those days. The Villaggio is creating nice edging there. But I haven't got my flower shape at all really. Maybe I needed to lay a bit more paint down. I'm liking how these edges have got that ribbing that I was talking about from the paper towel. I just haven't got the shape of my flower. Otherwise that could have been really pretty. So I'm just going to lay some more paint. Do it similarly again. I'm not worried about these edges because I think that they are actually a nice pattern anyway. Put a bit more of the scarlet. And now the Villaggio. And a little bit of gold. Okay, now I'm just going to use a smaller piece of the paper towel, like so. I'm just going to wet it down. And blow out the bubbles. I'll put a bit more of that red on, I think. I've buried the red under the white. Bring a bit more back. So I'm just going to lay that down. And as I say, I like the background. I do like that. So pop this in the middle of my flower there. Out there. Open it out. I don't want to go into the other area too much. So I'll just pat down my flower and then bring the corners into the middle. And then the other little bits. Bring that up, that one up, up. And the sky's just disappeared in there somewhere. Okay, I've got a lot of paint down now, so I'm not sure what's going to happen, but here we go. Straight up. Oh, so much paint. It's very pretty though. Just got to try and get some of this paint out of the middle here. Okay. Well, I can more or less see a flower, so I'll just hit it with the heat tool. So it's kind of like a flower in the center that's gone out and then become very abstract, and all this here where you've got that ribbing from the paper towel. So I'm just going to spin that. I just want that to expand a little bit, but I am really liking it. I've got so much paint in there, I've really got to spin some of that out. So hopefully that will expand it anyway and just take it out. So here we go. Okay. Just give it a bit of a tilt. And I'm going to keep spinning that. I want to get that paint that's in there to move out more. So whatever we end up with, right? It's holding its shape actually really well. I can see this paint so thick here and so thin everywhere else. So I'm just going to keep on spinning it. Well, I'm loving how the fact that it's sort of maintained its shape, starting to lose it a bit around the very edge, but that centerpiece has really maintained its shape, and the Villageo's given all this lovely petals. Yeah. So this paint here is not wanting to spin out very well for me. So I might lay a bit more around the edges. Try and help that to move around. I'm going to end up with paint everywhere now, but I really like the way that's kind of so abstract. It's just sort of kept that shape, but it's got the lovely cells. So I just want to smooth that down a little bit. I did like the colours under there, but they were just where I'd lifted the paper towel twice, it had thinned it out too much. Hopefully this will help that to flow over. Actually, that looks quite nice like that, doesn't it? With the red round the edges, it really makes that stand out. I actually like that. I don't even think I'm going to move it any further. I'll just smooth out the that red paint and leave it like that. Got some silver in there that I'd rather not have in there now, which I liked it before, but this will self-level anyway. I'm just trying to get the colour to spread evenly as much as possible. So there you go. I reckon that's quite nice. I quite like that. And I like how this has sort of come out very abstract from the flower there. I might give it one last spin each way, but not a big one. There we go. I'm going to leave it just like that. Lovely. So that's a very abstract looking flower. But the Villaggio again and the paper towel with the ribs in it just causes all these striations, which I love. I'm really liking the center. I'm tempted just to hit that, but I don't want to at the same time. So there we go, guys. I'll bring you down for a close-up. So here we are, coming down for a close-up of what has turned out to be quite a beautiful piece, I think. I'm loving how the Villaggio white, pearl white, has really shown up against that red. And I'm loving the edges, how when I've spun it out, they've become quite pointy. It kind of reminds me of a shell, and then the inside of a shell. Yeah, even though it's a bloom. And all these beautiful, oops, I want that to get out of focus. Beautiful cells and striations here. It's quite lovely. The center of it there, I'm really loving that too. Very, very pretty. Okay, so it took me a while to get here today, but eventually I did, and I'm loving this. Hope you like it too. So that's it for today, guys. So I'll see you back here in Studio 33 in the not too distant future. Until then, stay safe, and see you back soon. Okay then, bye-bye.